You could have an actual tree be the roots of the concrete below. So it'd keep it more firm for taller buildings. I was thinking about injecting concrete like they did to create a root system, and then having just a living root system below connected to the framework. But then why not just have the whole tree there? Because you could connect into the tree. So the tree would be the tree's root, and the tree would be the foundation. And you just need a custom-made thing that just grows with the tree. So each house would get their own tree in the center. So we'd have to plant big enough trees. That's an investment into the future. That would take way too long. We have to build houses around trees. But then the foundations are just as fine. Because then if you want to build up, the tree roots would have to go away. So you'd still have to build a concrete foundation below. So it'd just make kind of like a cool house. Because the tree roots would really do that. Stabilize the foundation. And it'd work as a column. So we'd have to build in the forest, keep the pine trees there. Because you could still build a 3-4 story family house on that. And then technically you could spill outwards and keep the tree as a focus. So it'd just be a different, how to keep the forest alive. So we'd have to group trees. You'd have to pick multiple trees. So 4 foundations, like 4 wheels, 4 solid points to carry weight. So you'd have to pick 4 trees. So we'd have to engineer each house differently. So we'd have to choose a forest that's not developed yet, completely overlap it. You have to take 4 trees, and we build off of those 4 tree foundations, build foundations around it. Then you'd have a big open space around the tree. No, you'd have to connect to it because you're building off of it. But then how to bring focal point to it? Because you just need sunlight to the top, so then you still connect the first floor to the root system. But then the foundation's still enough. Because with them adding a little bit more concrete and stuff to a normal foundation, you would still beat the root system of a tree holding on to it. Unless you're in the redwood forest. And those would be really heavy foundations to build off of. Technically, if you picked 4 of those, started to build off of it, connect it, do big arches between it, the trees. That'd be a cool family home. But here we'd have to have more sprawl instead of up, like in the redwood. So we'd have to pick more trees, cut off their branches, stick it up off the top of the roof so the tree can stay healthy. And then it attaches to the top of the roof. So then you would do a mountain range. So you'd make it look like a mountain range above the roof with the tree sticking up, but the tree is technically going straight through your house. So it should be able to hold a second story attached to it, which would be easy. But pine trees aren't that big. Again, you could only go up 3-4 stories. You wouldn't. The trees aren't big enough to go up a ton. But they still would go up enough. Because our family homes would be small because people would want to select their family groups, different family groups, maybe start their own. So 3-4 stories would be fine around a pine tree. Where building around the redwood would be this massive project. You have to have one big family. But build around those pine trees, or cedar forests. We have a few cedar forests. Then we can guard the trees. We can protect them. A whole forest like that. A forest neighborhood. Yeah, the roots wouldn't do much on a normal house, though. It wouldn't be adding much weight unless you had that tree to add bearing to. Like, the roots would help stabilize it, but that's almost not, it's never needed on any house around here. So you're adding the roots really wouldn't happen. It'd be better to sink concrete beams down to stabilize it than roots shred out, because then you could continue to build off of those downwards because you have the proper structure. So we could use the forest we have currently, build over the trees, protect them. So we'd have to custom engineer every house because we have to work with the trees. And then technically there's wildlife like birds up there. So they'll be living up in the top of the trees. So the trees will be way healthier. We'll have way more, we'll plant nut trees and stuff in the forest. So it'll be a forest neighborhood. So you'd want to attract certain animals in the neighborhood because it would be next to a forest. So it'd be easy for the forest industry to keep any of the predator animals out. Because you should just attract deer, apple trees, stuff like that. Get them in there. Birdies. Maybe a pond, you know? You really could only go 3, 4, 5 floors on most of our pine trees in the forest. And I guess a lot of them are big for a center point. You could just do one tree. But those pine tree forests are so close together. When you walk through a pine tree forest around here, like they're closer together, so it'd be easy to do more than one per house. But there's no way you could utilize all of them. You'd have either barely any or a bunch throughout your house blocking everything. So you'd have to literally choose what trees to cut down, engineer the house specific to that, build off top of that. So after a while it'd be easy because you're just doing a foundation. Well, we could do them every single one of them different, depending on the trees. Dig around it. Keep it in the middle. Close. Those would be fun to build. But the normal wood homes, I don't think they would need roots. Unless you had advanced particle roots, they could absorb certain elements from the soil like tree roots, but we don't have those yet. But we do have trees. So normal wood homes wouldn't need roots. Be better to build structure down below so you could continue down below, like classified people love to do. And then that structure gives you a solid structure to build higher up because you have that structure there in the soil. It's like a giant, huge connected rock going down. It's a solid structure. So you can build up more. It's an investment in your property and home then. Where with a tree, you'd have to dig down between the roots, which would be really cool because then you could build, have one of those walls, which is dirt, and have the roots showing. So you'd have to dig down between the trees, And then like I was talking about the ones for Chini, you could actually encase some of the roots and feed it. Or you can encase all of the roots, but then you'd have to bear all the weight downwards for the bearing upwards. So that dirt's really important. So you'd have to somehow support that if you wanted that feature, because the dirt would spill out. The whole point is that tree's bearing weight there. So if you're digging down, you destabilize all of that. But it'd be really easy just to build your downward section around the tree far enough and then enclose and support around the tree and then down enough until you've engineered enough dirt for the tree to be fine, and then you can finally cross over and build a solid one under your house. So it would just be a little bit, unique.